A bit odd, admittedly, to not debut your red band trailer alongside your green band. At least is what we were calling it, even though it went by the final trailer terminology. I guess technically this one is. Every other studio, and Universal has done this in the past as well, I believe, unless memory's not serving me correctly, they debut their trailers simultaneously, versus a couple days apart. I'm assuming this is basically the same trailer, because it sits at the same duration of time as the first one, at only 2 minutes and 27 seconds. So again, like I said, I find it weird to be sitting here again talking about Renfield when I thought we ran through the marketing and checking it out from 2 trailers. I figured based on the up-and-coming release date in April, it was summed up after that. But no, we have another trailer to look at, apparently. Either this is going to be a retread, or maybe there's some fresh life to this one. I don't necessarily know. But Renfield, I find a bit of a curious release. I've enjoyed what I've seen of it in terms of a new vampire movie starring a pretty big cast of well-known names, and with a bit of a unique charm to it as we look at another film that potentially could reinvigorate interest and presence within the vampire trend. As many trends along the horror and thriller scenes exist today, can the vampire one make a resurgence? Maybe with a bit of a fresh breath through its comedic levity, and that's in part, I'm assuming, because it's intentional casting in that vein with Awkwafina and Ben Schwartz, who I like on both counts, and then other names as well. Nicolas Cage, of course, headlining this, along with Nicholas Hewell. Sherry Agdash-Lew's in this. I love her. I'm really curious to engage with this release. Now, I will say I found the trailer that we just watched a couple days ago less strong compared to the first one. Some of the humor didn't completely land for me. Maybe it felt it could have been a bit more emboldened. But I like the psychological layer to it. Putting somebody in a position of the henchman figure. Like, I don't want to be working for Dracula anymore and attending, like, anonymous meetings. I don't know if they're necessarily anonymous, but support groups. Like, get me out of a situation. The psychological angle I found quite fresh and unique. So Renfield, I do feel, boasts a lot of potential. And Universal has done well, as I said in cases past, being Violent Night and Megan very recently. They've done well in the horror landscape, especially amid R-rated releases. I'm assuming that's where this is going to go. Maybe it could be PG-13. I don't know. You call it Red Band. I'm assuming it's maybe going to go down the rated R version. We'll see. It could be fun. But let's get an understanding here for why exactly you would debut this trailer now versus a couple days ago. Again, if I had to choose between the two, I would have picked the Red Band because they usually offer more. But to not have it debut on the same day, really the first I've seen of it. I can't think of a time previous to this when, in consideration of what I covered on the channel, they've been split debuts. Nothing rings a bell. All right, Renfield's the first. Let's check it out. Again, like I said, this could be just a general rewind.
Mr. Renfield, welcome.
So far, we're consistent.
Dracula.
As I've also said, the costumes look great. The VFX work is pretty stunning, too.
Evil. We will protect you. You have the word of the most trusted institution on earth, the Catholic Church.
Okay, that's a bit bolder.
Renfield, your sole purpose in life.
I will say it's definitely
Now, let's eat.
taking it in consideration again.
I just want a normal life again.
The jokes are pretty aggressive. Like that opening one, now that I really think about everything that was illustrated and the depth of it, much more mature. It's interesting to me a little more now.
Oh, God bless you, nuns. You're a hero.
Robert Montague Renfield. Let me explain. I work for Dracula.
I'm not sure, at least on that opening joke, how Catholics are going to feel in terms of this being an approachable of a release. But, it's history.
Father is the Lord of Death.
So you bring in people to eat?
Well, I do other stuff.
Like what? Wash his cape?
The cape is dry clean only, strictly.
Yeah, I will wear this shit. This fly, yeah.
You kind of think he's such a bad guy. But you're never really going to be free until you face him.
I will no longer tolerate abuse. I deserve happiness.
Let me explain something to you, okay? You deserve only suffering. I will unleash an army of death.
So far, we've only seen one new shot.
Because you betrayed me.
Maybe some I'm forgetting about, to be fair. But so far, it looks generally to be the same.
I am enough. I deserve happiness, and I take full charge of my life today.
Okay. Some difference.
You know something crazy happens and someone's like, it's okay, I've seen way worse. Everything I saw you do today is gonna be my way worse.
It's my least favorite part of the job.
Well, you're going all in. I'm assuming this is going to be rated R. I mean, I'm not necessarily a blood and gore guy, but I do like films with a bit of a darker presence to them, especially in the humor department. And Renfield is, I feel, quite edgy. Again, giving it, sometimes, again, going by the first impression model doesn't always give the most reliable takes. I'm not trying to discredit my thoughts originally of watching this on the first trailer, but sometimes you have to watch it a second time to best understand its heart, and you get a better impression through a review of it. So while I said it being the first time I saw it, and midway, some of the jokes still kind of felt, I didn't feel it here, to be honest with you. Watching it 2 days ago from when I filmed this. Again, the original trailer that was released, not this one. This is the red band variation to specify, so we'll call that the green band. The green band version midway, you'll recall this if you saw that video, but I felt it was sort of mellow, at least compared to the original. Watching this one again, I think I understand it better. In part, the jokes actually, I think some of them do land for me. The opener one, whether you approve of it or not, and I could see some audience members being like, "What are you saying about me?" Or church perhaps, because I mean it's kind of a dig. But again, if you think back on church or Catholic church history, if you've seen, let's say, Spotlight, for example, I mean it's an apt joke. It is pretty edgy, though, I would say, in perception, but I found it kind of funny, and the depth of it in realization I need not specify. We could all dig into that one. Much more aggressive, like I said, darker side, mature humor. Could be quite interesting. Very much an adult vampire horror release with, I will say, a fresh presence. And the blood and gore stuff, though, the styling of it I also found kind of unique. Like I said, though, I'm not technically, a gory violence type viewer. It's not necessarily something I'm into. I'm much more, in terms of story construction. Some, it depends. Like, for example, I watched *Malignant* very recently. I love that movie. It's so funny. But, in comparison to, let's say, *Hellraiser*, I fainted. It's like we hit the threshold on that one. That was number 2. I barely made it for the first. I don't want to think back on *Hellraiser*. That film was gross. Renfield, I think I'd be able to tolerate because the realization of the blood and gore is a bit campy, I think, intentionally. It reminds me, let's say, for example, of some of sci-fi's efforts. Zombie Tidal Wave specifically. Remember when I covered that? And then granted, yes, that's operating on a TV movie budget. This is a bit different. Well, I mean, I don't know the budgetary figures for this, but I would imagine it's a little larger. There's a style to it that it reminds me a lot of campier versions of violent flicks. But it's still a strong release. Again, like I said, I love the psychological basis to it. I find that intentionally creative. The VFX work, too, is pretty good. At least that one shot, too. I forgot to mention this as well in the first trailer. I was going to. I don't always mention every point. So maybe having this review will be... we'll call it, I guess, a part 1, part 2 in terms of the final trailer. Not really. That shot, to me, just appears so mesmeric. I quite like it, especially these days when we talk about VFX work. I think VFX employees deserve a lot more, attention. You look at recent offerings, let's say, for example, in other studios and franchises, Marvel rings a bell. And their VFX department, at least from what we've seen recently, I feel bad for them, at least from the stories we've seen emerge out of that, whether it be the grievances or people that have been fired. The Victoria Alonso story is pretty fresh in, I think, everybody's minds right now, and just a lot of the stuff emerging from that. VFX workers, I think, because, again, how beautiful the rendering oftentimes tends to be in the projects we watch, deserve, attention and highlight if deserved. And I do feel Renfield is just another testament to the work that is very, present these days in cinema. Not always the most well-utilized or structured, but generally there's a lot of technological innovations that speak to a higher elevation of visual presence, and I do feel Renfield boasts that quite well. It's a good movie, at least from the sounds of it, and I do think maybe if there's a desire to reinvigorate interest in the vampire trend, I think Renfield could be... I don't know. Because again, I look at this movie and it is so original, again, its formula and its vision, but I could see a pattern emerge, maybe fresher vampire releases from what might deter from expectation and familiarity of years past and other projects. We'll see what happens going forward, but I do feel that Renfield might bring some eyes in and maybe make this another emergent trend to sit alongside the clowns, nuns, zombies, sharks, and dino trends that are highly populated today. Vampires could, make a return. Let me know your thoughts down below, what you think of Renfield. Like I said, still weird that this trailer comes out after. Maybe they forgot to make it public or something. They had it ready to go, but they forgot about it. I don't know. It's just weird to not have a simultaneous debut. But looking at it for a second time and considering it again, I'm in a better place with it, I think. Renfield, my previous comments still standing. This is a bit of an evolved reflection, and I feel Renfield is perhaps a little stronger than I just hours ago, really, in terms of when I published that first video. It deserves more credit than perhaps I allowed it. I think Renfield, looking at it again, reminds me a lot of the first trailer, and I thought I saw a lot of potential there, and again, I see it in a better light now. It doesn't feel in any way too tame or mellow. Maybe that is because I can see that they're definitely pushing boundaries on the ratings. If you're going to go for a rated R, go all the way in, apparently. And they are, and I think quite successfully. Renfield actually appears to me a bit stronger than it did originally, from that previous take. I think the reflection inadvertently might have helped. Thank you so much for watching this video. Before you bounce, feel free to drop a like and comment, subscribe to this channel with a ding on the bell, and share this video with your friends. And consider checking out the description here. There you'll find links to my other channels, as well as addresses to my other social media accounts and ways you can help support my work if you feel so inclined. May God bless you, and looking forward to when our paths cross again.